All right. Hello. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in on a very chilly evening in South Africa, in Southern Africa. I hope you are warm wherever you are. I know that the weather is just, it's doing some other things. So please be safe and be warm wherever you are. We care about you a lot, and we want to make sure that you continue to spread the love that you have with all the goodness that you have. So, good evening, and thank you for showing up. It is a very exciting and special call. Every time we have one of these, it truly does remind us of how incredible our essential oils are. And today, in the All Things Copaiba call, we are going to do exactly that. And so I will not waste any time. I'm going to welcome and introduce our guest who's going to share all of these incredible insights about Copaiba, Dr. Nicole Stevens, the Vice President of Clinical Research at doTERRA, with over 25 years of experience in essential oil research, combining rigorous scientific expertise with a passion for natural products. She holds a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology and has been instrumental in advancing clinical studies that just validate the health benefits of our incredible essential oils. I personally call her the hormone whisperer because she knows exactly what your hormones need. So please give her a round of applause, fire flame emojis, and help me welcome Dr. Nicole Stevens.
Amazing introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
just would love to share all the love that we have here at doTERRA Corporate with you. I still think fondly on the chance I got to visit South Africa a few years ago. I have to say it's one of my favorite places I have ever traveled. It is amazing, beautiful, and you all are some of the nicest people I've ever met in all the world. So I couldn't turn down the opportunity to come and do a call today and talk about one of my absolute favorite essential oils, which is Copaiba. So I am going to make sure I can share. Never know with technology here. Let's see. Okay, can you see that? Hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me know if it doesn't advance or whatever's going on there. So, um, like we've said, I have been a doTERRA fan, supporter, researcher for ever since doTERRA was born 18 years ago. And before that, I worked with essential oils in the lab because they have captured my imagination. It is where very early on as a student, I decided I wanted to spend my career because I think that plant extracts, plants in general, one of my other degrees is in botany. I absolutely love what plants are on this earth. I love how humans and plants have evolved together. So they hold for us some of the answers to our health, and not just in the extract, but in interacting with our natural world as well. So before we go and dive into our Copaiba, I just want to lay a little bit of foundation very briefly, but I want to talk about this idea of consistency because there are a lot of essential oils out there. You're here because either you know how amazing doTERRA is, or maybe you're curious about doTERRA. And so I want to talk about one of the things I think, one of the most important things that makes doTERRA different in the marketplace, which is the consistency and the purity of its essential oils. Now, as a researcher, and specifically a clinical researcher, it is absolutely critical that I work with a product that is consistent from one time to the next. Because, if I find amazing results with an essential oil or a natural product, but then I can't replicate those results because the next time the product is different. That's a problem, right? And this is the problem that I had early in my career. I was working with essential oils, which are natural products, but the companies before doTERRA hadn't yet understood how to make that natural product consistent. And they would always say, oh, it's a natural product. Nature's going to do it at once. There's no way. And they're right to a point. We like the naturalness of the essential oils and the fact that the plants are making them according to their environment at the time. But doTERRA came along and said, no, we can do better. by working with our harvesters, our growers, by understanding more about the process of growing and distilling and storing essential oils, we can make a product that is natural and pure, but also consistent. So just keep in mind as you're looking at this doTERRA bottle, right? Grab your favorite essential oil. Let's see. I'm going to reach back. I have lots of essential oils. Ooh, I have Cananga. I like Cananga. As you're looking at this bottle of essential oil, I want you to think about all the things that has gone in to making this little bottle of oil, right? We've had to understand and learn as a company, as an industry, about what it is that can make this more consistent. And that comes down to several of the things you see here on the screen, but that's not all. There's definitely more. These are maybe some of the most important ones. But as doTERRA has grown and as doTERRA has gotten its sourcing, its unique sourcing, I think, among all of the essential oil companies, we've been able to come up with a product that actually can do what we need it to do and be consistent as well. So why is that consistency so important? Well, we've talked about one reason, which is so that we as researchers can be able to look at a product, work with that product, and then replicate our results because the product is the same from batch to batch. And that goes into this idea too of purity, right? We have to have the purest essential oils from the plants as they're grown in their natural habitat. We have to have them handled correctly, distilled correctly, and that consistency that comes from repeated, knowledgeable people doing what they need to do to get this essential oil for us. Now, what is the outcome? We are now able to understand, like never before, the safety and the efficacy of our essential oils. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, in great measure with our Copaiba. We have done some amazing clinical studies now on Copaiba and our other essential oils that help us understand how to dose them correctly, how to use them safely, how to evaluate their efficacy. What are they doing in the human body? What can they do for us? And then how to reproduce those results so that we are really sure that this is a validating response that we've gotten. So as we're talking through the amazing studies that I'm going to share with you about Copaiba, I want you to keep this in mind, right? This is a very new idea to have something that's both pure and completely natural, but also consistent. And in doing that, we've been able to do some things with our research that have never been done before. And that's what's so exciting to me as a scientist. Now, another thing that sets doTERRA apart, we work with some of the top scientists and research organizations in the entire world. And these papers that I'm showing here are from one of our really flagship collaborations with the University of Mississippi, the National Center for Natural Products Research. They are arguably one of the top institutions in the world for understanding essential oil chemistry, natural product activity. And so we have been so excited to partner with them. And they have published multiple papers from our essential oils, helping to talk about that chemistry and share it and bring to it some real weight in the essential oil industry and really in the scientific community at large. This paper is available if you go to PubMed and search. Oh, you can see my essential oils drifting. You see that? I've got my little diffuser on in my office. This paper is available on PubMed. If you go and search for Copaiba, doTERRA, you can use doTERRA as a keyword and pull up most of these papers. So I encourage you to do that if you're curious about the science and the actual publications that have been done using our essential oils. Okay, so let's dive in to our actual amazing, beautiful, brilliant Copaiba essential oil. Like I mentioned, this is one of my favorites, and it has become so, it became so very quickly after it was introduced. And I still remember the very first meeting in which our sourcing team came had these little unmarked bottles of essential oil. And they said, we found something that comes from trees in the Amazon rainforest. And none of us had ever heard of it before. We didn't even know how to pronounce it. You might hear Copaiba, you might hear Copaiba. Um, doesn't matter how you pronounce it quite as much as how you use it because it's an amazing oil. We were excited because this essential oil had a chemistry that we'd never seen before. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what makes it unique. So I mentioned that this essential oil comes from the resin of trees that grow in the Amazon rainforest. Now, these are Copaiba trees. That's their genus name. There's several species of this genus, and they grow really tall, many, many stories tall, and their branches can go out, over, I don't even know how big, like a lot of space. And the people that live in the Amazon rainforest had been using the resin of this tree as long as they could remember. They'd been using it for general health. They'd been using it for when someone needed a little extra help if they weren't feeling very well. They had a lot of traditional uses of this essential oil, which is how our sourcing team kind of came upon it. So when we got a hold of it in the research and development teams, we started wanting to understand, well, what's its chemistry? And this essential oil is primarily made of, you see that word farthest down, sesquiterpenes. Now, sesquiterpenes are fairly large molecules in comparison to some of our other essential oil molecules. Monoterpenes are the small, light molecules like you'd find in citrus oils and flower oils. Sesquiterpenes are the larger, heavier molecules that we find in woods and roots and some of our other essential oils that are very grounding and very earthy. The chemistry of copaiba specifically is dominated by this sesquiterpene called beta-caryophyllene. Now, as soon as we knew that, we all got really excited because beta-caryophyllene has been researched quite a bit in the literature. There have been a number of studies done on this compound for a lot of things to do with helping to kind of balance and regulate the body. And it's in other essential oils like black pepper, ylang ylang, and the cananga that I just grabbed off of my shelf. If you smell those essential oils, you can kind of pick up a little bit of the aroma of that beta-caryophyllene. It's a little bit woody, a little bit very earthy, and scientists have been studying this in conjunction with what we call the endocannabinoid system. Now, our body has lots of systems, right? We've got our digestive system and our circulatory system. All of those systems need to work together. They need to coordinate with each other in order to make sure that our body is functioning the way that it should. The endocannabinoid system is a very important signaling system inside of our body. And it's made up of, if you imagine the cell, on the surface of the cell, there's little receptors that kind of stick up like TV antennas, right? These receptors are always kind of scanning and watching for molecules to come floating by and interact with them. It's almost like a little key coming along and fitting inside of a lock. We have two different types of receptors. Well, two main types of receptors in the endocannabinoid system. We have CB1 types of receptors. They are mainly in our nerves and our brain, our very central nervous system. And then we have CB2 receptors. CB2 receptors, they are on just about every other part of our body, right? They're on our organs, they're in our immune system and our inflammatory system, and they help. These two kinds of receptors are looking for different molecules to come and tell them what to do, basically signal that system what to do. Now, our body does make molecules that help signal various things in the endocannabinoid system, but plants do too. And it turns out that copaiba and the beta caryophyllene that's in copaiba is a very powerful signal to our CB2 receptors specifically, right? And here's why that's important. If we have something that interacts very strongly with CB1, we can get some effects like psychogenic effects, hallucinations, and different things that are happening with our brain that we don't necessarily want. So when we found out that Copaiba and beta caryophyllene was acting on CB2 receptors specifically, we were excited. We knew it was going to signal important things in helping to kind of balance and equilibrate our body without having the effects that we don't really want in our brains. Now, a lot of people wonder, and I've heard of CBD. What's CBD oil and how's that different or the same compared to Copaiba? Well, it turns out, like I mentioned, that the Copaiba interacts directly with CB2. So it can help signal all throughout the tissues of our body what we need it to do for balancing and equilibrium. CBD, it doesn't interact very strongly with those receptors at all. It kind of, it's almost like the key doesn't quite fit in the lock. So it doesn't tend to be as strong of a signal as Copaiba. And if you have someone who really, really loves using CBD, you might say, I've got something for you that you actually might enjoy because Copaiba, in a lot of ways, is an even more powerful interaction there. Now, the good thing about Copaiba, though, is it doesn't switch our systems into high gear, right? It's not meant to be a stimulant. It's meant to be a signal to our systems, right? Helping to balance, helping to tell our bodies where to find the equilibrium that we need if we're off in some of our body systems. So that's usually the way that I think of Copaiba. It's an amazing kind of thermostat adjustment inside of our bodies. Let me show you a few of the papers that have come out about Copaiba and why they're important as we're trying to understand what this oil is and what it can do. So this paper was published by several of the doTERRA scientists. You see Dr. Hill up there in one of the authors of this paper. This paper is fantastic, and it did some studies looking at kind of cells in petri dishes. And what we found was that Copaiba oil did just what we thought it would do. It interacts on those CB2 receptors and the systems that they signal. But something even more important came out of this paper, I think. Copaiba is more than just beta caryophyllene, right? I'll tell you a little secret. Scientists like to take a complex substance like an essential oil and pick out, the main component of it and then just study that. So many papers have been done on just beta caryophyllene, the compound, not as many papers done on whole Copaiba essential oil. So when this paper showed that whole Copaiba essential oil actually works better than just beta caryophyllene alone, we were excited about that. Right? Nature put together this essential oil in a particular way. Yes, it gave it a lot of beta caryophyllene, but it gave it other amazing compounds as well. And we've found that Copaiba works better as a whole oil than just as beta caryophyllene, which is a really cool outcome. This is another study by several of our doTERRA scientists. Actually, we've done quite a bit of research and contributed more than many other institutions about Copaiba essential oil. So that's exciting. This was a study that looked at Copaiba as part of a massage, as part of the aroma touch technique specifically, and showed that this may help support joint comfort, which makes sense, right? That's part of our signaling system inside of our bodies. And then this one, not doTERRA scientists, but a really cool paper nonetheless. Copaiba oil aroma may help with feelings of anxiousness when under stress. And, these days, We're all under stress, I think. And it's important to be able to find ways to manage that stress and signal to our bodies that we're safe, that it's okay. So Copaiba essential oil uh, for topical, aromatic, and even internal. Now, let's talk about some of the other studies. They're not yet publications, but we're hoping to get them that way. Sometimes the publication process can take several years, so it's been a bit slow in getting some of our papers out. But I'm going to share with you what some of the outcomes have been on several of our clinical studies that we've done using Copaiba essential oil. So the first study was done several years ago, about 4 years ago. And this was what we call a pilot study, meaning we didn't really know what we were going to see yet. And so this was a small scale, short term um, test of what are we going to see? What are we going to come out with when we look at Copaiba? Since very few studies previous to this had ever looked at Copaiba internally, our ethics board wanted us to do, kind of a small scale study before we did a larger one so we could see what we could see and make sure that it was going to be safe to use in humans. So 21 healthy adults, pretty small, but a good place to start. Ages 18 to 64, median age was about 39 years old. So kind of much like our doTERRA community. For 1 month, these participants took Copaiba twice daily with food. So usually with their morning meal and then their evening meal. This was a double-blind study, which means neither the researchers nor the participants knew whether they were taking a placebo or a Copaiba soft gel. They were just told, take this with food and then let's see what happens. So one of the important measurements that we were taking during this study was something called functional movement. Now, this is a test that measures how is your body moving? How are the pieces talking to each other for coordinated movement? This test is often done to help understand aging, help understand degenerative things. If someone, has a condition where they're losing some of their functional movement, this test helps to see, put some numbers to that. So we hypothesized based on our, previous studies that if Copaiba helps the body communicate better inside of itself, if it specifically helps with healthy inflammation, healthy um, immune system, and things like that, theoretically, people should be able to move better after they've taken Copaiba for a while, even healthy people, right? And that's exactly what we saw. 18.8% overall improvement in functional movement. And that was exciting. These people were already healthy to begin with, but then they could move better by the end of the study. So if you can kind of look and see the different types of tests that we were looking at, deep squat, inline lunge, hurdle steps, mobility, things like that. These are the types of movements that our bodies need to be able to do for us to function optimally. And I mean, the trunk stability, that's a 32.5% improvement in the stability of your trunk. That's going to support movement of your spine. That's going to support all of your core. That's a pretty big improvement. And these were people that we weren't saying, now go work out hard 5 times a week. Go, run a marathon. No, we said don't change anything except take Copaiba. And we saw incredible improvements. Now, we also tested Copaiba in the microbiome. No one ever had before. This is the first time we were looking at data like this. And we saw some very interesting shifts, positive shifts too. And that's one thing that we've always been asked, do essential oils hurt my microbiome? Are they going to change how my gut is functioning? We didn't have any answers because we hadn't really tested that before. So in terms of taking Copaiba in a soft gel, we found that several of the species of microbes that are down in the gut changed. in positive ways. We saw an increase in the Fusicantabacter species that actually helps support gut barrier. And this is important so that we don't have leaky gut, so we don't have things, coming back into our system that become toxic. We saw an increase in the Eubacterium species, which helps improve gut integrity and metabolic health, right? These are some things that are tying back to other systems of the body that we were excited to see. The Sotorella, this is actually one of the players in immune response. We know that a lot of our immune system is centered in our gut. And we had some proof here. Yep, Copaiba was actually helping out with some of those positive changes. So throughout this initial study, we came away with some very exciting conclusions that the Copaiba, just taking it morning and night and not changing really anything else about uh, diet or exercise or lifestyle or really anything, that Copaiba was helping the body better signal to itself. It was supporting multiple body systems, and the people taking it were reporting higher quality of life, better feeling overall. And so we were pretty excited about this initial study, this one that was done about 4 years ago. And we thought, okay, oh, and there were no adverse events reported. So in terms of a safety profile, that was an important finding as well, too. We now had proof that, taking this Copaiba internally was safe for our people. So we thought, okay, if it's really, really good by itself, if this Copaiba is amazing on its own, what would happen if we paired it now with the foundational wellness system? Because we've always, we get up on stage and we talk about foundational wellness is so important, and then essential oils help amplify and improve that. Well, what if we had some data to back that up? That was our goal. So we did a bigger study, and this was just last year that we completed this. We had a group of 84 people, and we split them into two groups. The first group had the foundational wellness system alone, right? That's our VMG, our PB Restore, our E Omega. And that's what we tested it with. We suspect that the results would be similar with LLV as well, because, there's some similarities in the formulation. But that was one group. The other group had the foundational wellness, plus they took a Copaiba soft gel morning and night, just like we had studied in our previous study. And we wanted to see, number one, does our foundational wellness system do what we hope it does? Does it work? And number two, is it influenced? Is it improved, enhanced when we add that essential oil in? We suspected that it would be, because essential oils at their core are really signaling molecules. They are messages to our bodies to encourage them to work better, more efficiently. So data collection happened at day 0, day 45, and day 90. This was now a 3-month trial as opposed to a 1-month trial. The average age was 42, very similar to the 39 from the other trial. We had 49 women, 35 men. Now, this over 60,000 data points, that's old. We actually ended up with well over 1 million. It was an incredibly huge study in terms of the data that we got out of it. Now, what we found was fabulous and exciting to us. We found that our foundational wellness system did everything we hoped it would do and more. We saw improvements in cognitive benefits, in blood markers, levels of vitamin D, vitamin B, iron, all the things that we're trying to supplement with. We saw improvements in quality of life, in sleep, in feelings of anxiousness and depression. Pretty much everywhere we looked, we saw an improvement when someone was taking their lifelong vitality, their foundational wellness. And here's the exciting thing, I would say even more exciting. In the group that was taking the foundational wellness plus the Copaiba, the results were even more significant. So it's like it's doing everything the foundational wellness does and then some. So what did that look like? We saw statistically significant improvement when we added Copaiba to that, right? Our foundational wellness group had some improvement too, but not as statistically significant as when we added our Copaiba. Now, this was in things like recalling specific words and processing speed. We had our participants take a test where they needed to, as quickly as they could, substitute a number for a symbol that was given to them in a key. And they had to remember that symbol and then write it, in anytime they saw that number. It sounds kind of complicated. It's really not, but it does take some processing power from your brain to be able to do it quickly. So we saw that that was statistically improved when they were taking their lifelong vitality, or their foundational wellness with their Copaiba. And then, let's see. So it was those two tests. How many words could they remember from a list that we gave them? How quickly could they substitute a digit with a symbol? And then there was a third test. Over time, how many of those original words could they remember? We call that delayed recall. And there was improvements in all three of those areas when we added in our Copaiba. We saw statistically significant improvements in body composition, right? We expected or hoped for that when we were having our people take the lifelong vitality, because we know that that's going to, improve and optimize the metabolism. It's going to give the body some of the building blocks it may not have had previously. But we saw that statistically significant improvement in the group that was taking Copaiba specifically. Now, less so in just the lifelong vitality kit, just the foundational wellness group. And we thought about that for a minute, and we were curious about why that would be. And we're still doing some research, but I suspect that it's because the Copaiba was signaling to the body what it needed to do with those raw materials, right? We're giving the body all these healthy fats and vitamins and minerals and macronutrients. The body still needs to know what to do with them. And I think that's where Copaiba and, in fact, many of our essential oils come in. They're signals, they're educators to the body of what to do and how to do it. So this was some of the actual numbers, right? 3 out of those 3 cognitive tests, immediate recall, delayed recall, and digit symbol substitution, statistically significantly improved when we added the Copaiba. Muscle mass increased, body fat percent decreased, almost exactly 1-to-1. So the weight didn't change a lot, but we swapped out fat for muscle, which ultimately is much better at improving metabolism. We found that in the group taking Copaiba, there were dramatically improved levels of vitamin B12, which is one of our most important B vitamins for energy, metabolism, cognitive processing. We saw improved thyroid function and decreased hemoglobin A1C. So these things are tied into our healthy metabolism. How is our body functioning? And then, as we mentioned, the cognitive performance statistically significantly improved as well. So we got to the end of this study, and I'll tell you, we're actually still analyzing the data. What is it, 8 months later? There was that much of it. We're analyzing what happened on the genetic level, right? Which genes were turned off, turned on. That is really the meat, I think, of how our essential oils are working. They go right to the level of the cells and start, being the foreman on the job and say, okay, you do this, you turn this gene on, you make this protein. And our body's like, okay, I'll function better and do that. This is, I think, some data that you'll be able to hear about in the upcoming, I'm hoping, at convention, but in the upcoming months, weeks, we're putting out some of this data as we get it, because we saw an incredible number of genes that were either dialed up if our body needed more, or dialed down if our body needed less. It was a balancing that we saw. So we're still analyzing the data on epigenetics. We're still analyzing the data on microbiome because in this study as well, we wanted to test what was going on in the microbiome with our foundational wellness plus our Copaiba. So that data is still being analyzed and still to come. This is where we're getting into the millions of data points now. But the bottom line was we walked away from this study knowing foundational wellness works. It by itself, all on its own, can do amazing things for health and for quality of life. But then adding Copaiba as a booster really does enhance the power of this set of products. And so this is something, that I can testify to personally as well. Copaiba soft gels, I can never run out of them because I take them, my family takes them, and I have noticed incredible changes in my own life. Benefits to my health, my sleep, systems of my body that had been troubling me to that point have been greatly improved and enhanced as I've added Copaiba into my routine. So you might be asking, okay, well, how do I add it to my routine? If you are looking for kind of this systemic, I want to feel better, I want to function better, this is where you'd want to take 1 to 2 soft gels daily as part of your foundational wellness routine. I don't know if you guys in your market yet have VMG. I apologize. I don't know which markets have it and which don't. But if you don't yet have VMG, LLV, along with Copaiba, is also an amazing route to take. And your PB Assist or PB Restore, whatever you've got in your market. Those products together, we've now shown in clinical studies, are powerful. They're reshaping, right? They're directing your body how to be its best. You can also use Copaiba topically. I like to add a drop or two to moisturizer to improve and kind of calm my skin. It's wonderful as a massage essential oil. And one cool thing about Copaiba, it's what we call a penetration enhancer. We're not quite sure why, but what it does is whatever essential oils you might have in combination, it helps your body absorb them better. It's almost like telling the body, yeah, let that one through, let that one through. So I'll usually combine my Copaiba with some frankincense or some deep blue or whatever I'm needing in the moment when I want a massage. Adding a little bit of Copaiba just kind of supercharges it. You can combine with other essential oils for a personal fragrance or for your own diffuser blend. I do this quite commonly. I love the kind of woodsy and smoky aroma of the Copaiba. It gives a lot of character to essential oil blends. You can mix with carrier oil and rub on distressed skin for restorative benefits. Now, I love putting it on my neck and my lower back because by the end of the day, I can tell exactly where I've held all of my stress, and it's right there. When I put my Copaiba on, again, I'm signaling to my body, you're safe. It's okay. You can let go of all that stress of the day. So I encourage you, if you haven't explored or experimented with Copaiba in a massage, you're in for a treat. It's pretty neat. And if you'd like to do the AromaTouch hand massage or the full AromaTouch body massage, Copaiba is one that I would recommend to add into that. This is a great one to diffuse at night to promote a restful sleep. If you already like to diffuse Serenity or Breathe or something like that, try adding a drop or two of Copaiba along with it. Again, it functions as an amazing enhancer and booster of so many things. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of my favorite blends. If you have your essential oils and you're feeling curious and maybe wanting something a little different, I like in the fall especially the warm and spicy blend. It's kind of similar to Harvest Spice if you've ever used that essential oil blend. That's one that my team and I formulated years ago. And you'll see why, because I love that combination of roots and woods and spices. This is a signal to the body that, you're in a safe place, that you're in a place that's like home, that you can relax. And the benefit is some of these essential oils are also very good when there are seasonal threats about. So cinnamon, ginger, these are good for more than just kind of that grounding and, delicious sweet smell. Copaiba, cardamom, ginger, cinnamon. I'll put those together in the diffuser. It gives you an amazing aroma, um, very fresh, woodsy, but then that cardamom kind of brightens it up. So I love that one. If you want a more bright aroma, that middle one, Copaiba, juniper berry, we don't talk about that one very much. I love juniper berry. And lemon make a really fun combination. So the Copaiba in this case is kind of the what we call the base note, the grounding, rich, deep, low part of the blend. The middle part of the blend is that juniper berry. It's rich in alpha pinene, so kind of similar to frankincense. And what that does is it signals to the body, again, I'm in a safe place. It evokes kind of what we would think of as forest bathing. Remember talking about that a few conventions ago? Forest bathing is the act of walking out in nature, breathing in the natural essential oils that the plants are putting out, and letting your body kind of calm and relax. So juniper berry kind of does that in this particular blend. And that's the middle part. Then the top part, lemon. That's usually we think about blends, a bottom part that's, rich and heavy, a middle part that lasts a long time, and then a top part that's very intense but light. And you smell it first, and then it kind of gives way to the other aromas. That's a really fun blend. If you just need something to kind of pick me up, you want to make your house smell brighter. Now, this last one, this balancing blend, this is one of my favorites. And if you were paying attention earlier in the presentation, I mentioned that there are multiple essential oils that contain beta-caryophyllene. Recognize any of those here? These are all essential oils that have beta-caryophyllene as one of their main components. So copaiba, of course, black pepper. This has often been studied in terms of helping people who are working to overcome addictions, to break things like smoking habits. Um, Melissa, interestingly, also has beta-caryophyllene in it, and ylang-ylang. This one is the floral cananga as well. They're kind of sisters in chemistry. If you're mixing these together, you are going to get a different, you're going to get a lot of beta-caryophyllene, which is great. But because it's coming from different essential oils, and we now have all these other compounds underneath, it's a very amazing, very soothing experience. I love this one when I'm winding down at the end of the day. It's great for meditation if you have a meditation practice. Um, it's a really nice personal aroma too, I think. I love kind of the mixture of the floral and the woodsy and the spicy. So give this one a try, see what you think. This one is it's one of my favorites, and I like to use it with my kids too. I have a house full of teenagers right now. They are all sometimes just crazy. So we need a little something sometimes to bring us down at the end of the day. So I like to use this as part of an Aroma Touch hand massage. If you've ever done that, it's got some very specific kind of movements to stimulate some of the acupressure points that are on your hands. I'll do that with my kids at night, and it's one of our connections that we have. And they will open up to me in ways that I can't get them to otherwise. So if you ever want to really connect with someone, try an Aroma Touch hand massage and try this blend and see what happens. And I would suspect that you're gonna see things open up in ways that you might not have before. So we'll end with the reminder that doTERRA is so much more than just a fragrance company. And these little bottles of essential oil are so much more than just bottles of fragrance. They are powerful signals to the body. And it signals that in a lot of ways in our modern lifestyle, our bodies have forgotten, right? We no longer, most of us, walk around with bare feet in the grass or the soil. We no longer walk out in the forest and feel the trees and smell the essential oils. We are in cages of metal and glass and carpet, and our bodies sometimes suffer because of that. They forget how to really function the way that they should. These are the signals that they need. They help remind our bodies, our cells, our genes, what it is that will help us function our best, like our ancestors did naturally as they lived in the forest. So, by having pure and consistent products, we've now been able to unlock what has never really been done before in the history of essential oils, which is understanding more about our safety and the efficacy of what these oils can do. So these are just two of the studies that we've done. Of course, we could probably have a similar talk about many of our essential oils that we've done clinical research on, that we've got a consistent product for. And I think that's what's exciting about doTERRA. We're a wellness company, and we're committed not only to the best products, but to the best research too, so that we can say with confidence, you know, we know what this essential oil can do. We've got the data to prove it. And now it's up to you as you're talking to your family, to your friends, to those who you share with, be confident in sharing these essential oils. They're amazing. And we can back that up in so many ways. So if you are not familiar with Copaiba, if you haven't tried it, if it's not one of your favorites, I'm going to encourage you today, reach for it. Put it into a blend, put it into some massage oil and put it on your body. Start using it daily for a month. See if you notice some changes, because I bet you will. It's a powerful essential oil with an amazing chemistry and some amazing research behind it. So I think I will leave it there and leave some time for some questions.
Perfect, Nicole. I'll actually feed you some of these questions. Thank you
Awesome.
for everything. I don't know if I'm showing up. There I am.
There you are.
So thanks so much for that. And don't get me in trouble if I do any kind of HIPAA violation here, but just for everyone, Nicole hasn't been feeling her best the last few days, but she wrote this morning saying, hey, she's not still feeling 100%, but the market's special to her, and just want to give appreciation for you still making sure that you make the time for this. That we really do appreciate that. It was awesome.
So glad I
A
could.
lot of things
Love you
coming in.
guys.
So many things that we covered there. That was fun. That was fun to listen to and to see. So um, I love how this is one of the oils I probably feel like I have known the most about, and yeah, I can sit here and continue to learn more and more things that we continue about. I'm going to feed you some of these questions. I'm sure there's a ton of them. And
Okay.
sorry to everyone if we don't get to every single one of these ones, but um, I think there are some good ones that we could go through here. The first one, actually, I'm going to start with because this is good because you clarified this, but this will be a good clarification when you were talking about the receptors. Uh, would there be ever a concern if someone taking Copaiba on them showing up on a drug test, like they were taking marijuana?
That is a great question. As far as we know, no. As far as we know, no. Although we haven't actually done that study, so that's a good study. If you are part of a sports team or a job that requires you to do drug testing, I would say see if are willing to let you try that as a test, but do tell them, I'm taking this Copaiba. As far as I know, it shouldn't, because we did some initial tests looking at drug testing with essential oils, and they did not trip the drug test, which is good. But yeah, we don't have all full data set on that. So I would caution people who have to, their job requires this to be careful, just in case.
But on that same point, there is quite a bit of a difference, right, between like a Copaiba and with receptors and I guess there's a million different ways for like a
Yeah.
marijuana, right? So,
Yeah. And that's one of the main things. If people are using CBD oil, depending on your source, you actually can have traces of THC in there. And there could be enough of that to trip a drug test. In Copaiba, that definitely is not the case.
yeah, perfect. Thanks for on that one. Um, there was a question here that was asking about is there a increase of dopamine? Do we know anything about any dopamine in the brain with Copaiba?
That's a great question. I haven't seen specific measurements of that, um, but it's possible because, again, we're influencing the parasympathetic and the sympathetic systems, that balance between them. And from what we know, Copaiba does enhance the parasympathetic system, which is the rest and digest, as opposed to the fight or flight mechanism. And in doing so, there usually is an increase of dopamine. It's hard to measure is the problem. And unless you have very specialized equipment, which we don't, that's something that's very difficult to measure. And I haven't really seen that in the literature. But just based mechanistically, I would suspect that it does.
I mean, I feel like after this, everyone's gonna be so psyched up that they'll feel the dopamine hit when they go do their Copaiba. So, all right, great. Thanks on that one as well. The next one here was on heart support. Do we have any research with Copaiba's heart support or even high blood pressure?
We did check blood pressure in several of these studies. We did see improvement. Now, whether this was with the foundational wellness study. So I would say whether that was to do with just the Copaiba or the combination of these products, I don't know. But I would recommend the combination of the products anyway. And because we had the omegas there and we had the Copaiba there, I think the combination of them, it did actually help people's blood pressure reduce several points.
And that's a great call out as well. Again, it's the putting them together and how Copaiba really does go with that. And what great thing we do have the full in South Africa, in the Southern Africa market, we have the full foundational wellness. So it is great.
Okay, good. I should have asked you that ahead of time. I apologize. But,
I'm
and
glad
one
you
thing,
clarified that because they've been, I'm sure that was an exciting thing for everyone because not everyone, hopefully our market knows that not everyone does have the MG
they
and
don't. Yeah.
foundational
In fact,
wellness.
I'm actually headed out tomorrow, health permitting, to go launch VMG in Canada. They still hadn't had it until like right now. So this is a set. I mean, it's truly life-changing. I will kid you not. And one thing that we didn't really get into, but that we should definitely mention, we were doing our study on the products, so the foundational wellness and the Copaiba, and we specifically told our people, don't change your exercise habits, don't change your diet, don't change your sleep. What would happen if you actually did change those things positively, right? What if you did start getting more whole foods and less processed foods? What if you started getting half hour or an hour more of sleep each night? And what if you added, 32 minutes to an hour of movement each day? The results would be off the charts. I can't even tell you. So definitely these are wonderful signals to your body. I would think of them still as tools to our own lifestyle, enhancements.
Awesome. And I think that's a definitely great call out on that standpoint. Imagine if you did make those changes in a positive way, how much
Right.
better these things will be.
Yeah.
And I know I've talked to many of our leaders in the market. I've been really excited about a lot of these new things that have been coming out with it. Um, let's see if there's any. I know there's a lot of these in here, and there's a lot of these questions I love and appreciate them. We probably won't get to right now, and there's probably another time for them.
I
Um,
did see one. I did see one just pop up
please
that I want to
go.
respond to. It was talking about menopause support. Okay, so I'm going to stand here and testify because this is right where I am too. The main thing that I've been noticing is yes, that the balance that it's helping my body find has been unlike anything else that I've really tried. Um, because it is signaling, again, those CB2 receptors are everywhere in the body. And so as I take my Copaiba, I do find that balance in sleep, which has definitely been affected by, coming onto menopause, and mood and hormone spikes. So I would say yes, we don't have a trial on it necessarily, but I'll, anecdotally say it has helped me incredibly.
I'm glad you did. I don't have that experience personally yet, but I'm glad that that's a great one to share because that would have been a harder one for me to answer here.
Yeah.
This is actually one that I was going to go, and I'm glad actually Candace had put it in here as well. So like this month, we do have our 200 PV promo, so you can get the soft gels and the oil. Maybe individuals might just have the oil. right now. Is there a best way for them to take that internally that you would suggest, like under the tongue, in water, put it in a cap? Is there a best way maybe that you've seen that it's to be taken internally?
Fabulous. So yeah, our studies were done with the soft gel specifically. And I think I saw a question pop up about, is there a difference between the soft gel and if I were to make my own? The soft gel is Copaiba plus olive oil. Olive oil. So if you wanted to take it internally, the closest you would get to these studies, if you wanted to kind of replicate that, would be to put 3 drops, 3 drops into one of your veggie caps, and then a few drops of olive oil if you have that, or some kind of fatty carrier oil. And I like having that fatty carrier oil there because, again, that's one of the signals to our bodies to release the things it needs to absorb that. If it's just the essential oil, we've seen it doesn't absorb it quite as well. It still will, but a little bit of fatty carrier oil and taking it with a meal will allow the body to absorb it most. And that will be your closest thing to be able to replicate these studies. Now, I have had some people say that they like it under the tongue. We haven't done a study on that, but interestingly, that is actually absorbed by a different mechanism than when you take it all the way down into your stomach. So there could be actually some real power to taking it under your tongue too, if you don't mind the taste. Some people are like, oh, it tastes really strong. I don't love the taste, so I like to take it in my capsules. Um, but yeah, I think that you would also do well if you put a drop under your tongue. Um, kind of how it works best for you, and try a few different ways. Maybe you notice one way works better than another for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it just tastes like a tree, right? It just tastes like a
You're
tree.
licking a tree. Bleh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole, I think we will kind of put it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning here for you and the evening here for all of our participants. We will have this as a recording um, for others to be able to go back to. And just want to again, thank you so much, Nicole. And thank you again for everyone joining us this evening. This always was a great thing. We had, 250 people on this call today. So that is a really, really fun number, a great community, continuing to look forward to progressing our health. So
Yes. Love you guys tons. I need to come back down there and give you all hugs in person.
definitely need to have you back down in person. So thank you, Nicole. Thank you, everyone, again. Have an amazing evening and hope to be all together soon.